Welcome to the Rebuilt Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Sykes. Each week, I sit down with people who have faced life's toughest challenges and come out victorious, along with mental health experts, coaches, and leaders. We explore powerful stories of transformation, faith, and practical strategies for building a life of purpose and resilience. This is the Rebuilt Podcast. What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Rebuilt Podcast. My name is Jason, and I am your host. Today, I am thrilled to have Amanda Scott with us. She's a licensed clinical professional counselor and wellness consultant. In this episode, we dove into understanding the brain, exploring how our thoughts and habits shape our lives. Amanda shares her expertise on ADHD, the role of dopamine, and how past traumas influence our present. We also discuss practical strategies for fostering a growth mindset and the importance of really having a sense of purpose. So whether you're looking to understand your brain better or seeking ways to enhance your mental well-being, this conversation is packed with insights. So let's jump in. Hey, Amanda, good to see you. Thanks for being on the show today. How are you doing?
Yes, doing well. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk. Yeah.
That's great. So today is going to be a little different of an episode. I think that really knowing your brain and how to use it better, like any tool, you're going to get better results. And so I'm really excited to talk to somebody of your nature who deals with questions and research on the brain, how it works, the activity, and helping people use it better. So really excited about that. Real quick, why don't we just take a quick introduction on your part and tell people who you are, what you do, and then we'll jump in.
Yes. Well, my name is Amanda Scott. I am licensed-wise. I am a licensed clinical professional counselor, but also work as wellness consultant and coach. I have some that they're not interested in the therapy. They're interested in like, how do I get stuff done? So that's where my coaching comes in. But yes, I have I think I just crossed the line of 10 years experience in the counseling coaching realm, and definitely with a niche of ADHD, sometimes ADHD, and anxiety, because those are like I rarely see ADHD presentation without at least some anxiety. So that's kind of my focus. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And I think when we first started talking, that was something that really I was interested in because, I have ADHD and I have my whole life. And so that resonates with me personally. And I know it's pretty common. A lot of people do have that. So understanding that better is something that I think would be very, very helpful for people. But I love that you're a coach. You help people succeed in life, help people who want to have that growth mindset, take the
Mhm.
next step. And so I guess really my first question for you would be, when someone decides that they want to change their life, what is actually happening in the brain at that moment?
Well, and maybe this is the starting process of that moment, but a lot of this goes like as you're saying that, I'm hearing, okay, so they're thinking the thoughts that they want to do better, make better, change better, right? Thoughts in and of themselves, we're looking at like the neural pathways. So it's like neurotransmitters sending these thoughts. And I think that that's where the growth happens, where the change happens, but also where our stuck happens. Because I think my favorite expression that I hear everybody say when they talk about it, what fires together wires together. So when we have very conditioned habitual patterns of like, I am fill in the blank, like I am not good enough, I am stuck this way, this is just the way I am, right? Any of those. Now we're like, every time we reinforce that, it's like, if we think of like our playlist, right? It's like the playlist doesn't go, hey, here's an artist you've never heard before and a song we've never played. Would you like? No, it almost you have to go in the search bar and be like,
Mm,
can you show me this artist and this song? What it shows is what we listen to continuously. Brain works very similar. What we keep on going is what keeps on coming up. So that kind of circling back around. So when we want that change, we have to start firing different neural pathways. We need to
mhm,
get, I also like the vision of like if we think of a tire groove, like we keep going for it, it gets deeper and deeper. When we stop using it, it starts to go back to its original form, right? It doesn't totally disappear. There's atrophy, not like
uh-huh,
complete removal. But that's what we're trying to get old patterns that are unserving to go into atrophy. Harder
mhm,
to fire those off. And then we
uh-huh,
want to get these beautiful new ones of growth mindset, these new things of I I am on a journey to doing this. I am working on doing this versus I can't do this, right? And
mhm,
then we
yeah.
want those tire tracks to really start going in deep. Yeah.
Right, yeah. No, I like that, yeah, the tracks, the tire tracks, that's a really good analogy for it because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I've read that it actually does have grooves in your brain, and it's almost like electricity that kinda fries the surface of the brain and creates those actual grooves, right?
I mean, that's kind of should I say the fun part of like where our thoughts are? They really are chemical and electrical exchanges, right?
Mhm,
Like that is what is happening. And
right,
there's a big part. I'm like, this is like, I don't want to segue into what would be a whole different episode, but also like why it's so important to have like good nutrition and things like that. Cause
mhm,
it's like the amino acids, the things we need for our brain to function optimally goes in with like that's a huge component. We need to have the right proteins and that so we can be firing off these new helpful, wonderful thoughts.
yeah, yeah, that's right, and so that's another reason why, it's permanent placement in your brain. You can't take away the habit, you can only replace it, right?
Mhm.
Because it travels on the same path. So when people are like, well, I just can't stop doing something. It's like, well, but you can replace it if you do it with something else, uh, all of those same triggers, you do something else. And it's literally like the visual is it's in that tire track, it's in that groove, and you get that running in the same spot, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So what is it that about our brain that makes certain thoughts just repeat automatically?
And that I mean, that does go into that place of like the kind of playlist Google search type thing. And it's
Mhm.
like ev- her brain is so it loves like the associations and that. So I'm trying to think of like random but good example and I'm like, oof, where to go from here. But if we have some like super impactful moment and for some reason the color blue is involved, right? It's like then we could be somewhere else and somebody takes out a blue chapstick. Nothing in this situation at all has anything to do with the other one, other than the chapstick they pull out is that same color blue. And our brain is like, oh my goodness, we've seen this blue before. Remember? And like, good or bad, if it was a wonderful situation, we're like, oh man, I should get that chapstick. That chapstick just makes me feel good, right? If it was a terrible situation, we're now like triggered and feeling a stress response and probably wondering if we're not like super self-aware, wondering, "Where is this coming from? Why am I
I have
feeling
a
like"
I have a feeling that marketing and commercials have tapped into this, haven't they?
Precisely, yes.
So, basically, we'll just go with the color blue, like that's what you're talking about. Say the color blue can bring up, memories that had an effect on you, right?
Mhm.
Does that play into, uh, like, dopamine and, of that something of that nature, or is that different?
And I guess it depends on the situation, right? Like,
Mhm.
again, going into if it were like that color blue was associated with something that was like amazing experience, like, oh, that was my last getaway where like in the fabulous place, the interior was blue. I have no idea.
Mm. Yeah,
But it's
yeah,
like then there definitely could be because there's that like connection to something that
yeah.
was like so positively impactful. I think where dopamine plays a bigger role is that place of like I think my favorite way I've heard it described is dopamine's the little voice that goes, that was great, what can we do next that would be like more, right? It's like
Mm.
so and this is like a fun way I bring it up a lot because in like working with ADHD presentations, I won't say everyone because that seems like an overgeneralization, but there's like vast majority, there's a like um, deficiency in the dopamine. And this is where I'll see depressive symptoms come in the ADHD lens, where like neurotypical person, I'm hoping that's still the PC term, right? But they will do like put the laundry away and dopamine ping. Oh, that was great. What else? Oh, well, maybe we'll put the dishes away if that felt good. Oh, ping. Oh, there's another. Oh, lovely. Maybe we'll vacuum.
Yeah.
When we have an insufficient dopamine level, we'll have this like, oh, I'll put the laundry away. Like right there in and of itself is a celebration. It should be. But the dopamine would be, hmm, I'll have people, I had somebody who just graduated with honors, all like bells and whistles, could not be. And they're like, yeah, it's done. I guess I find a job next. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what's going on? We gotta, but that's like when we're lacking the dopamine, we're not getting it there. Point being, where do we find it then? And this is another like kind of issue that comes up with ADHD is we get into maybe not ineffective habits. Like I'll
Mm.
see people who do like impulse shopping, gambling. There's like addiction with substances or material or whatnot, because this is where they finally feel the dopamine. And when they
Mhm.
finally get, it's like finally something, and then get into like ineffective habits with it. So
Mhm. And real quick, just to backtrack a minute, in case someone's not familiar with the term dopamine, can you kind of explain what that is?
right. Well, and chemical in the brain I mean, that there's so much out there on dopamine right now and that, but it really is kind of like we have dopamine and serotonin, right? And like the serotonin is common words, like that gives us more of like calm and content, where dopamine gives us, again, like if dopamine had a voice, it's that thing like, this was great, this was awesome. It's like very like key to our motivation even is
Mhm.
like all in our dopamine source. And like it not only does it say like, oh, this was a great thing to do, but then it says like, what else can we do like it? Right.
Mhm.
And that's where it's a key factor in motivation, where like, oh, like the trigger sentence for some like ADHD uh mindsets is like, well, you just need more motivation, right? What is it? You need more motivation. You just need to pay
Mhm.
more attention. You just, if you had better focus, if you, it's like,
Mhm. Mhm.
well, it's a lot of it comes down to if I had a sufficient level of dopamine, this would all be a whole lot easier. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so with dopamine, it's really it's almost like rewards for your brain, and you want more of it,
Mhm.
right? Something that
Exactly.
and then that becomes addiction. It can become
It
addiction,
can.
right?
Mhm.
Um, which creates bad habits or good habits depending on what you're addicted to, I guess.
Mhm.
But in modern habits like social media, pornography, food, substance, you know, how does that hijack the brain's reward system when you know that some of these things aren't healthy?
And that, I mean, that's exactly, we're hijacking because there is this like, and if you think about it, if in the typical line of the day, doing the typical tasks that like we would find necessary to do to be responsible or effective functioning, however, it's if we're not getting any of those pings, like I say, the dopamine blast from it
Yeah.
is not very reinforcing. It's not like, again, like, because that's the big part of the dopamine voice. What else can we do? It's like, we want more, right?
Right.
And like, lovely when it's happening in a right place and motivating us to do more in that direction. But when we're thinking of like the doom scrolling, the online shopping, gambling, porn, substance, any of that, we're finally, if we haven't had it all day and anything else, but here is where we're having it, it makes a lot of sense where we would get trapped in the, we're finally, and equally, a
Mm,
lot of these things are where people also are thinking, this is me relaxing. This is my
yeah.
leisure time. This is like, I can finally unwind. And if we've been masking all day, like there's lots of good reasons why we get sucked in and kind of like I like that hijacked with these behaviors because it like I, end of the line it feels good, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Right.
there's the benefit. It's just not serving. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And that's, really where working on your willpower comes in, being able to say no to something that feels good that is not healthy for you.
Mhm.
And so like if willpower is a real neurological resource, say it is, um, can that be strengthened over time? And how do we do that?
And I'm a big fan, certainly like in the ADHD world. I don't put all my eggs in the willpower basket, where I
Mm,
put a lot more of eggs in like the strategy basket of
yeah.
knowing how the person works. And it's like, how do we make the effective choice so much easier to do than the ineffective
I
choice?
like that. Yeah.
And like
Strategy.
example being for from my online shoppers, because I really do. It's definitely both. Like I see it equally in females and males that we go online, we want to get something, we get it. Yeah, oh ping. Oh, that felt great. Let's get something else. And then it arrives and it's like, I don't even know why I got this. That was stupid. I'm trying to save money. Right. But
Yeah.
what we do is we make sure the credit card is not hooked up to, so it's not a click. It's
Mm.
I have to go get it. I have someone, they keep it like, not only that, they have only one card they'll use for online purchases and they put it in a safe and they put that safe in like the most inconvenient place in their closet. And they, like, we make it ridiculous. So it's like a chore to go get the card to actually make the purchase. And like the beautiful part of the ADHD brain is that all sounds like a lot. Like I don't want to go through all those steps to have to
Yeah.
just to make this to the little ping I'm going to get from the purchase. I don't think so. So
Right.
we're not necessarily using willpower. We're using that part of I don't like 6 or 7 stepped tasks, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Same with food. It's like putting the fresh fruits and that, having it ready to go and on the counter and that, and having the chips or candies in a thing, tucked down at the furthest backest corner with 5 things in front of it.
Yes.
It's there if you want it. So if you really want it, you can have it. But if
Hmm.
it's all that work to get it, right? It's like, maybe I'll just have an apple. That actually sounds okay. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no. So talking about ADHD, like I said, I definitely wanted to get your thoughts on that. Um, I was diagnosed with, I think they called it ADD at the time. They didn't
Mhm.
put in the hyperactive disorder until
Yeah,
later on.
didn't come until a bit later. Yep.
Yeah, but they told me I had ADD when I was in first grade, and they immediately put me on like Ritalin, and started putting me on these medications that I took through school, and I stopped, when I got out of school, and then And then since I had the prescription, I was like, well, I'm going to use them for college, and now I take them for work. But I've always wondered, and I'm sure other people are probably wondering too, like, what does that actually do in your brain scientifically? And how does that counteract the ADHD? Is it really helping? Is it really worth it? And what are the side effects or results of somebody who takes that 20, 30 years?
Right. Well, and I'm like, ooh, we can start with what is it doing? And
Okay.
if we rewind back to how we were talking about the chemical and the electric signals that are um, helping us with the creating those thoughts, good or,
Mhm.
well, I don't like to say good or bad, so I'll say effective or ineffective.
Okay.
Now, when we put on like ADHD lens, one of the big things that is going on is a dysregulation of connectivity. So we think about like different parts of the brain. We talk about like kind of hold different information. So in order to like think of something, pull it back, like we think information stored in the back. We have the prefrontal cortex, right? Our frontal lobes
Hmm.
has all that like wonderful problem solving and our executive functioning. So we got to get this information up there. But then there's middlemen in the middle that have to almost like I think my favorite analogy is it's like the baton race where, from the back they're like, "Oh, I got the information. This is going to be great. Here's the baton." And then you get to the middle guy who's like, "Oh, thanks."
Yeah.
We never and right? I
Never
mean,
makes it to the front.
it's a human moment. We all have
Mm.
had it where we're like, "Oh, what was like I walk into the room and nothing. I have
Forget what
no
I'm
idea."
doing.
Like the middleman dropped the baton. Now in ADHD, this is happening with a lot more frequency. There's a lot of this, like, we're just kind of scattered, I think is like the the word I hear the most. Now, there are non-stimulants, but I'm going to keep it just like on the stimulant front. We think exactly that. The brain is getting stimulated, which should be regulating this connectivity that was dysregulated. Not to say that it's dysregulated 100% of the time, because I have people like, but sometimes I can think just fine. And I'm like, then it was regulated. It's when we're scattered that it's getting dysregulated. But this is where the stimulants help, where we're regulating the connectivity. And now suddenly I can concentrate. I can focus. Most people say the stimulant actually slows them down, and it's like they go from thought to like thoughts.
Mm.
Maybe thought and thought, which is still way slower than what they were experiencing. So when ideally, if the medication is working as we're hoping for it, we would want to see sustained focus, less impulsivity, because it's like we're not like, oh, doing this, doing that. We're able to
Yes.
stay on track. So it's
Yeah.
where we're not having so
And
much.
that's something that I can actually relate with. And um, like for instance, I like to clean. I'm a pretty clean person. I'm very organized. It's just kind of how I've always been. I used to like line up my action figures when I was a kid on my dresser. Like I've just always been that OCD kind of person. And so when we have guests over, whatever, my wife calls it crazy clean mode, and I'll just go in and I'll just start cleaning the house. And it's all productive, it's all good, but I will have like 5 or 6 projects going on. I'll start doing some dishes, and then I'll notice something on the counter, and then I'll pick that up, and I notice something else, and now I'm doing laundry, but the
Mhm.
sink's still running. Like I got to go do the dishes, and then I'll notice something else, and I'm getting things done, but it's at a really bizarre way because I'm doing 5 or 6 things at a time. So that's contributed to the ADD, the scatteredness, as you say, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that the impulsive of, let me finish the dishes and then I'll do it's like you almost can't help yourself. You're like, but let me just do this real quick. And then it's like, well, while I'm here, I'll do that too. Where again, we would hope medication would help us say, and there's a part where there's some relief of, I know I'll remember to do the thing on the counter right after the, like, I can stay here. It's not like I'm going to have 100 other thoughts before I get there and then I won't like know how to get myself back. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally with that, memory improves because we are able to stay on track. And there's a lot where we'll see a lot more emotional regulation. And I have a lot of people say their anxiety just like comes with, you think stimulant and like, oh, increased heart rate and that, oh, it's going to make me more anxious. But for the ones where, again, biology is fickle. So this is like when medication's working ideally, they notice anxiety go way down because it's not having to initiate a task isn't such an effort. Having to
Hmm.
remember it, being able to like stick with it till it's done. So it's just done. Like all of that does like all that mental energy that's saved from not having that be struggles just helps immensely with like just more. I don't have a
Yeah.
better word than regulated, but it's like
Right.
maybe content, but
Yeah. So the medication works. If it's working good, that's good. But long-term effects of the medication. Does this help your brain function on its own, or are you always dependent on this medication?
and that I mean, in essence, the nature of like ADHD, it's neurological. It's how it's not like if I take this long enough, the brain's just gonna stimulate itself. Like it doesn't quite work that way. I have kids and adults alike. They take the medication long enough to set up the systems they need to be successful. And they're done. They're like, I don't know. A lot of people's after a while that I don't even know if it's working anymore. And I always like to talk to a partner or a parent because that the outsiders looking in are like, oh no, we could definitely tell on the days they take it and don't take it. And I appreciate that feedback to kind of help them of like other people are noticing. So let's not like let's think about this for a minute. But I, there is the part, and I'm sure different research will come out at some other time, and this may not be accurate anymore. But the last research I've heard was that they were seeing that there's no significant effects on the heart from taking, like, as prescribed. If we like, if we're doing anything wonky with it, then that's not what the research is about. But
Yeah.
they were saying they could not find like significant issues with the heart. And in some cases, it actually made the heart stronger. And the big red flag was if you had any like, I can't think of the word, but predisposing issues. If there's any history, any either in yourself or in the family line with heart issues and that, like really important to talk to prescriber about that. Like if there's anything that could be an issue for like that individual person. But in general, with healthy heart, healthy body, they're saying it doesn't like create any heart issues or that.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, that's
For
very
now.
interesting.
For
Yeah.
now. That's
Yeah.
that's
And I guess the last question I really have on this topic is, do you know or have any idea why someone would be born with this? Or is this something that you are only born with, or can it develop, or how does it get started?
and they definitely have it as neurological, hereditary. There's like a
Okay.
huge there's a if and a lot of I think the really fun part of my job is I work with a lot of people who are late in life diagnosed. And some of the work we do is just having those like aha, putting the pieces together and then recognizing which parent, maybe it was an aunt or uncle, maybe it was a grandparent or but it's like that part of like as things are kind of coming to more awareness, being like, oh, that be like, yes, there is
Mhm.
something going on. Like, there's research that goes back to this, called by different names, but this has been a presentation since like the 1700s. It's not. new
Wow.
by your names. Yeah. Again, called by different names, but like it is the same thing. It's just how it's been like slowly shifting as we get more information. So there is a part of like, yes, you're most likely, there's one exception, but most likely you're born with it and it will stay with you. And when you harness it, it can be a gift. And it's like, I think that's like, a lot of people miss that part. But when you know how to work with you, there's amazing things you can do with ADHD. I think by far, the whole wiring, the way it is like more attached with nervous system, and they call it like interest based or passion based wiring versus like
Uh,
kind of important wiring. But there is like, you cannot do things in life unless you're passionate about it. Like you
yeah.
have to have that interest, that drive. Like, I like this has purpose to me. And I think, what a wonderful way to live your life that
Yep.
like you just can't do it if it's mundane. It's just, I can't even do it. I can't spend my time with it. Like, I have to have a passion. I'm like, that's amazing. And it's just like finding it and honing it and making it like a successful functioning skill for you that some people struggle with. And like, that's a journey. But once you make that
Yeah.
journey, it's magical. So it's like, I hope people are able, and it's like, that is part of my job is like, if I can take each person and help them find like, this is a magical thing that I like that helps me be who I am versus gets in the way of who I want to be.
Yeah, that's great. So people with ADHD are typically a little more emotional.
There's definitely the technical term, we would call it emotional hyperarousal. But
Okay.
yes, there's that piece in with how it's more like directly impacting. It's really the limbic system and the nervous system are just like
Hmm.
they're like more solid besties than in other people where it's like, so when that limbic system is triggered, it is like the frontal lobes, all of that problem solving, executive functioning, gone. And we are just in an emotional state, usually very unhelpful and ineffective. So we want those regulating strategies to bring us back before we respond. Yes, because we're reactive in that zone. That's
Yeah.
not helpful. Yeah.
Well, that is very informative on that subject. Thankful for
I
that
will say one
conversation.
more. I was
What's
like,
that?
the one time where you can have it later in life with traumatic brain injuries, they're
Okay.
noticing that in cases where in childhood, early adulthood, even I haven't read the research on older adults, but in like traumatic brain injuries, we can see ADHD like features. So I'm like,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
in case anybody heard me say there's one exception and it's like, but what was the exception? That is it. Okay.
Gotcha. Well, and that is kind of a good segue into the next thing I wanted to discuss would be trauma and
Mhm.
emotions, uh, survival wiring. A big part of what I do is help people who have had traumatic pasts. I myself have come from some pretty extensive traumas, and it's hard for anybody, but especially people who don't understand what's going on in their minds to overcome those things and be successful in their goals, what they're trying to achieve when they're always feeling stuck, and they just don't realize a lot of it's because of what happened to them in their past. And so I was going to ask you a few questions on that. How does past trauma or chronic stress shape the way the brain responds to new challenges?
When there's like, oh, there's so much to go on that one. I think one of the biggest pieces we want to think about is stress. Stress alone, stress with trauma, right? Like intensifies things. So we get into that like that emotional dysregulation or impulsivity. And I'm thinking like specifically in like ADHD terms. There's these features that are there, but then when we have heightened stress or have experienced a trauma or are even experiencing kind of like trigger to trauma memories, right? Like these things become heightened. But then we can get into like how our stress worsen, like that's that part, like the limbic system. If we're getting emotionally dysregulated, and like limbic system is kind of like in the core of the brain. So it's like on fire. Well, that prefrontal cortex, those frontal lobes aren't able to like connect. We're not able to get that good,
Mm,
helpful. I'm like, ugh, good's
okay.
too judgy
Yeah.
for me. But that like really the executive functioning. So all of the things that are going to help us get through the moment, we can't even connect with. And we're just having these intense emotions, which like there's also a part where we get into the feedback loop, right?
Mm,
And by far that's, I have others like the downward spiral of we start this thought, which connects to that thought, which connects to the other. And it's just like
yeah.
going down fast.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. So, how would you say that the brain? You were talking about, like memories. Okay, maybe they're traumatic memories. How would you say that the brain confuses emotional safety with familiarity? Even if the familiarity is, unhealthy.
Hmm. Well, this is, and I'm not sure if this is the line you're on, but there's a big part with what is familiar tends to, and I'm like, this is going to sound strange, tends to make us feel safe. Like we feel safe in familiar, even when familiar is not great. Big part of why a lot of people, I'm like, even if we rewind back to those great thoughts, right? Of like, oh, I'm going to have a growth mindset. That's change. Change is unfamiliar. And there's a lot of self sabotage with our own
Hmm.
success because that it like to grow, we have to step out of that comfort bubble. And I do a lot of focus on like, let's just like step out like an inch. And then the comfort whoop comes right back. And we're, okay, good. Let's scoot one more inch. Cause if like, if we try to go 10 feet outside the comfort bubble, that's going to feel awful. Even if we're
Right.
successful and something wonderful happens, we're going to be like, but that was too much. I can't do that again. So it's like that familiar does do something like, even if it's dreadfully toxic for us, it's what we're used. It's almost like,
Yeah.
I don't want to say the nervous system's regulated because we're probably on eggshells in fight or flight if it's toxic, but it's still the change almost seems worse at some points.
Yeah.
But the important part to remember, and certainly if we're doing like inches out of the bubble until we get to where we're going, it lasts for seconds. It's like, and we're okay. We're comfortable again. And our bubble just got bigger. And
Hmm.
that's like, there's a big part in change of like, let's just slowly make that bubble bigger and bigger. There's no questioning it. It's like,
Yeah.
I, this is just how this goes. And I like, the brain is really big on predicting. Like the majority of everything we experience is the brain predicting it. So with that, when we're doing something, the brain can't predict it. And even that can be irksome just in and of itself. So when we go back to brain can just predict this, it's like lovely feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned self-sabotage. I was going to ask you, why do you think people self-sabotage even when they deeply want that growth feeling?
Well, and I am continued to be like, I'm like almost speechless of like the surprise I am of how many people like kind of deeply fear success.
Mhm.
And like I'll use a lot of humor when working with clients about it. Like they'll be trying to get promotion or trying to go from
Uh-huh.
part-time to full-time. And as it's coming up, they're starting to like like, oh, well, but I can't make the interview, or I got sick for the interview. And sometimes it's like it's psychosomatic. We're really sick, but we're doing it to ourselves to not have to do this. And there really is, if I get the promotion, I'm going to have to do that job. If I get full time, I'm going to have to go to work full time. There's like a little bit of like, ew, we don't actually like, as much as we want that, we don't want that because that's effort and the brain likes path of least resistance.
Mm.
And there's a part of imposter syndrome of, well, what if I get there and I can't do it, or I'm no good, or somebody thinks this or that of me? Like, ew, I'd rather just be here where I know it's fine. Like it goes back to the familiar piece.
Mhm.
But I would say a lot of the self-sabotage I see lives around that area of having to leave the familiar, or the genuine fear of success. Because like we've glamorized success, but it can be scary to be
Mm.
successful. And then it's like, did I even really want this once we get it? And then what do we do? Like, fair to that we question it, but we won't know till we get there, right?
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah. So people who have the growth mindset, they decided that they want to, advance their thinking, be more positive. What are some simple science-backed practices people can use to um, interrupt negative thinking and really start thinking more mindfully, more thoughtful, more intentional, positive?
Mm. I'm like, "Ooh, there's a couple places to go with that
Yeah.
one." Uh, I would say I'm, like, thinking of, like, my general rants. I always make fun of myself, and, like, I go into these rabbit holes when trying to make a point with clients. But one of the big ones I do is talk about the difference between rumination and reflection. Where rumination, we are stewing in just the negative, whatever it is, of situation gone wrong. I can't believe I said that. I can't believe they did that. I can't believe this happened. The woulda, coulda, shouldas, like all live in rumination. And it's like, and I try to like really exaggerate. Like it's just us sitting in negativity. That's all, just replaying it, refeeling it, all the
Mhm.
emotions, just going like a broken record of just like the yuck of whatever situation.
Mm.
And then the brain and like what fires together, wires together will go, oh, here's a whole bunch of other situations where you felt just as stupid, like incapable, whatever it was. Like, let's just play them all for you right now. And it's like, thanks, let's sit in this and just get negative. Reflection, on the other hand, we think about the situation and, like, okay, emotion comes up and we acknowledge and we let it flow out. In reflection, we say, now the next time I'm doing something similar, what will I do different? This is like
Mm.
whatever anybody else did, we have no control over anyway. So that's not like that's rumination. Whatever they did, no serves us no good purpose to think about it.
Mhm.
What can I do differently that may have a better outcome? And it's not that it's definitely going to have a better outcome, but it's like the empowering plan for this is how I want to respond the next time.
Yeah.
Right? We learn from it. We take, right? It's that part
You're
of
putting
like,
that
oh,
structure in place.
here, the feedback. Yeah. Where how do I take this and do something better with it? Yeah.
Yeah, and that is, I think, a subject that a lot of people struggle with is like triggers and reacting to things, right? What happens in the brain when someone is triggered and just reacts before they can even have time to think?
There are automatic thought patterns. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the big, I, what's so important about that is our patterns are habits, right? So it's this, whatever we had, the electric chemical signals, this lit up that, which got us to here, which has these, and these are the thoughts, our go-to thoughts, so to speak. It's habit. So if we work on, and again, right, it's habit that same way. We don't like just get those out of there and then we stop doing that. It's
Hmm.
we replace it. How
Yeah.
can we replace it? Even if it's, oh, I can't do that yet. Step one, we're replacing. We're like, that's a baby step until the I'm working on being able to do that. I'm on my
Right.
way to being able to do that. I'm almost able to do that. I'm
Hmm.
able to do that. Okay. Like these are the steps we're working on taking. Right.
Right. Yeah. And I like how you said yet, because it's like
Mhm.
you're rooted in your identity. It's like, well, what is your identity? Who are you? Because if you have a good understanding of who you are or who you want to be, whether you're there now or not, you can choose, right? You can choose to act like that person that you want to be. That's your new
Mhm.
identity that you're forming, right? And so, that's a great topic as well. I mean, so many topics we could go into, but I will ask real quick, how does identity influence behavior in the brain?
And that I there's like a whole beautiful theory of like layers of the mind, right? And
Mhm.
the identity, the I am is at the
Yeah.
core of it. So like I don't if we want to think of it like a circle or we want to think of it up and down, I don't know. But I kind of like it as a circle of like
Yeah.
the I am. And right, like from there we get into like we have values that support who we are, and we have beliefs that support who we are, and we have behaviors that support who we are. And a lot of times people like to work backwards of like, I have to have all these behaviors, and then I can start to have these beliefs, and then I'll
Sure.
start valuing this, and soon I'll be this person. Where it's, it at least works a whole lot faster if we start with the I am this person. And as this person, I have these values. And with being this person with these values, I have these beliefs and being right. Like, and with the person with the values, with the beliefs, I have these behaviors, which give me these outcomes. And it's like, dare I say, it's very similar to the fake it till you make it kind of thing. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it really is. Like when you just start doing it, you will. I'm like, if we wanted to geek out into the brain terms, this is like our reticular activating system and our thalamus are like, oh, oh, we're this person now. Okay, well, now we're going to filter out, and everything that says we're this person is going to come into our consciousness, and everything that's not this person, we're going to delete. We're just not
Yes.
even going to let you see it anymore. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And eventually that fake it till you make it actually becomes
Mhm.
who you are, and if you start thinking about those characteristics of that person long enough, you eventually become habitual in those practices, and that's who you become. And I mean, that's the essence of changing is you get to become whoever you want if you put in the work.
Right? I always give it's exaggerated, but I say we're gonna have to do it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Do it 1,000 times. And like I'm like, maybe at 222, you're gonna be all good. But we're still gonna put it 1,000 times. I'm gonna practice this
Mhm.
and like see where we are after that. Because I have people who try it 10 times and are like, I don't think it worked. Like we
Right.
need so much
Right.
more than that.
And it's hard from the beginning. People can't
Mhm.
grasp that it can even work or they've done it. It's kind of like I talk to a lot of people about, physical training as well. And they're like, well, I went to the gym, but I don't know, I still have muscles. It's like, well, you got to do it more than once. Or
Mhm.
that's a good job that you didn't eat that cake, but you got to not eat the cake for the next 2 months to really see it. But from the very beginning, I mean, a lot of people, they don't see, some people, they don't even see the hope at all, and which is another topic I was going to ask you about is hope, meaning, purpose. Um, and why does having a sense of purpose or meaning change the brain's resilience?
Oh, I think there's such a big, and I hate to be like, I don't. a lot of people get into like sugar and gumdrops and unicorns and this kind of talk, but it is so important of like, if we don't have that thing that, and I say that thing to be so vague because it can be anything, but if we don't have that thing that when we wake up in the morning, we're excited to put some amount of energy towards it, there is like, I think what breaks my heart the most is when I talk to clients and they're like, my least favorite word, meh.
Eh,
Meh. And I was just like, oh, I can't. And I guess this goes into like the passion wiring and why I love like working with ADHD presentation. But it's like, I just don't even get it. I'm like, oh, how can we got to get it. And I can't have my personal agenda. If they want to stay in meh, that's their choice. But it, there's such a big part of, and they say this is why two people could have like basically identical traumatic experiences. And one person is like, I think the one research example I could think of is it was like a plane crash, or it might have been a train, but like two people, same car, nearly identical experience. One person couldn't leave their house. They became like agoraphobic. They couldn't leave. They couldn't keep up relationships. They just totally fell apart after this accident. Where a person that had seemingly identical experience went and got on train or plane the next day to get to where they were going. They had places to be, right? And there's a big part of like when we have that purpose, that drive, that hope for something, that's something we're
mm,
moving towards. I say this is why if therapy coaching isn't working, I'm thinking there's not an identified outcome. It's not
mm,
this step we're going to. So we start just kind of
yeah,
like it's like mindlessly floating as like we become the, not to bring the mindful metaphor up, but like we become the leaf on the stream, just like
yeah,
wherever it takes us. And it was like,
right,
well, we were trying to get across the stream. What happened? Why are we just
yeah,
floating down it now? Yeah.
right, yeah. No, purpose is so important. One thing that I'm noticing in this, everybody's talking about how AI is growing and is going to replace so many jobs, and everybody's like, "Well, this is good. You know, it's going to increase revenue. It's going to give people more time." But it's also going to take away a lot of people's purpose. It's like if you have something else doing your job for you, yeah, you're going to have a lot of time. But even if you're enjoying your time, uh, human beings were wired to complete tasks. We're wired to, um, you know, have that purpose, whatever it is. And eventually, I think that when people don't have purpose, it causes depression and it causes, you know, a loss for life. Really, it's just like, what am I really doing here? And I think that's a lot of people who retire. You know, they might have a career for 40, 50 years, and then they retire, and they're just like, well, what do I do now? Well,
Mhm.
enjoy your life. It's like, well, I can't enjoy my life because what am I doing? There's no purpose. And anyway, just kind of my thought on that. But yeah, purpose is, I mean, it's tied to your identity.
And there's really a big part, even with what you said in there, like at its heart, depression is like inactivity. It's
Mm,
like, and like the kryptonite to depression is activity, like just doing anything, just starting something can help pull you out of it. And I know
yeah.
like I have talked with people in like the dips of like low depression, and to do anything sounds dreadfully exhausting. So it's like I hear what I'm saying in that
Yeah.
context, but it's still like the moment you start doing is the moment it starts lifting. It's
Hmm.
like it's a
Yeah.
fog that lies to you and says, "No, that's not gonna feel better. Don't do that." But
Right.
it starts lifting once we start moving. Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't even get talk to you about depression, but maybe I'll have to have you back on and we can have an episode on depression because that's something a lot of people need to hear as well. But I
Mhm.
guess the final thing I would ask you is, talking about this meaning, this purpose, this hope. What would you say to somebody who feels like they've already tried everything and they still just can't change?
Oh, goodness. I'm like, there's a little piece where I'm a stickler for overgeneralization. So I'd be like, everything? You've tried everything? And then I would come up with really ridiculous things to be like, did you try this?
Yeah.
They're gonna tell me no. And I'll be like, okay, so not everything's been tried. I would then probably dissect a little bit into like, what did they try and what part of it wasn't working? It's like like that would be more individual specific of like
Mhm.
where I would want to go. But there's a big part, and it might be a stupid example, but it's definitely one I see all the time. I'll talk about like research says breath work is like it backed by it is one of the most backed by
Yeah.
research coping regulation strategies. And I've tried breath work and it doesn't work for me. And I'm like, well, no, what did we do? Because if it's not working for you, that means we're taking too short a breath, too long a breath. We're not like using it right. Like if we want more energy, we want the inhale like more
Yeah.
significant than the exhale. And if we're calming down, we want the exhale to be more significant. And if we're not doing the timing right, like I have a
Yep.
swimmer who has to do a lot longer breaths than someone who has asthma. So it's like there's a lot where it's like perhaps we tried a one size fits all version of an activity and we need to like tailor it to make it actually effective.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I think
Well,
that's the big one, the overgeneralization. I'd be like, "Oh, no, let's we're really gonna go through everything if that's
yeah.
the case."
There's
Yeah.
always something you haven't tried, something that can help. And by the way, I'm a big fan of box breathing.
Mm.
In the 4 second counts. I love breathing. It helps me. Number one, is good for your for your blood, but it also helps you in situations. A lot of times when I'm stressed out or I feel and kind of, anxious, it's like, well, I'm holding my breath. And we hold our breath and we don't even realize it. It's like, well, if I just take a minute, just breathe, do some breathing practices, that's another reason why yoga is really good too. But man, we could have a whole other
That
conversation
is,
on that
yeah.
one. But anyway, definitely want to be respectful of your time. And it's great conversation. Thank you so much for your insights and
No,
your expertise on this.
so
Now
much
you
fun.
you are out of Chicago.
Yes.
If somebody, is in that area or they wanted to get a hold of you for whatever reason online, where would they go?
And that I guess I have a website and www.mandaspathway.com. And yeah, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I think. Yep.
Yeah, I'll put it all
Right.
in the show notes too.
Yes.
So, well, thank you so much, Amanda. This has been really helpful. It's been really
Yes.
inspiring. Really appreciate you. So yeah, I just hope that
Yes.
you take care, have a great day, and we'll talk another time.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. It was fun. Yes, thank you.
All right, we'll see you.
Mhm.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you enjoyed today's guest. And I just wanted to say that if this has made you think, if this has sparked something in you, maybe about your purpose or your relationship with God, I just want to encourage you to not let that moment pass. If you're ready to take that next step and connect with me personally, you can reach out to me through my email, which is jason@rebuiltlifecoach.com, or you can go to my website at www.rebuiltlifecoach.com. And if you're serious about building a stronger faith-driven life, please go check out that program. Thank you for listening. And as always, keep walking in purpose and growing in faith. I'll catch you next time.